Hi guys, George here from Zero Period Productions, and today we're taking a quick look at Greymoor, the upcoming expansion for the Elder Scrolls Online. More specifically, today we're taking a look at ESO's take on the city of Solitude. For the uninitiated, the Elder Scrolls Online takes place nearly 1,000 years before the events of Skyrim, set during the Second Era during what's known as the Three Banners War, in which three factions vied for control of Tamriel. One such faction was known as the Ebonheart Pact, comprised of Blackmarsh, Morrowind, and the eastern regions of Skyrim. The eastern holds, namely the Rift and Eastmarch, were led by King Yoren, who served as the leader of the Pact overall. While eastern Skyrim stood with Yoren, the west, namely Hafingar and its surrounding regions, were ruled over by a separate king, High King Svagadym, who believed in remaining independent of the Pact. As a result, Skyrim stood divided as two separate kingdoms, and High King Svagadym remained impartial in the Three Banners War. Solitude served as the capital of Western Skyrim under Svagadym's rule, and for us will serve as the main city in the Greymoor expansion. This is being recorded on the playtest server, or PTS for short, a test version of the expansion that can be played by anyone with a copy of ESO on PC. That means you might encounter some bugs and hiccups as this is not the final build. Upon traveling to Western Skyrim, we start off at the Solitude Docks, the only way shrine immediately available to us in the new zone upon entering the PTS. From the way shrine and overlooking the docks, we get a great view not only of the Great Arch and the city above, but of the surrounding region as well. Even within these first few seconds, it's clearly the same city and area that we've seen time and time again these past several years in Skyrim. The docks themselves are very similar both in size and scale, one of the key differences being the absence of the East Empire Company, which hasn't been founded yet. The warehouse itself still exists as a structure, but not one that we're able to enter. Approaching the city gates, we're met by a familiar uphill climb towards the towering walls of Solitude itself. The atmosphere feels much warmer than that of Skyrim, with the walls being more orange in tone than Skyrim's blue and gray and green. In this sense, it makes the city feel a little bit more welcoming and less weathered as well. Taking our first look at the city, the layout is nearly identical to that of Skyrim's Solitude. Upon entering the city's separate zone, we're greeted by the inn on our left-hand side and a familiar platform on our right. In Skyrim, this is where you would see Rogvir's execution. Instead, in ESO, this platform is used for turning in your daily crafting writs, which is a much nicer introduction to the city for sure. While the inn's location has not changed, it has changed hands, and in ESO goes by the name of the Lonely Troll. The Troll's interior layout boasts the same architectural design as the Winking Skeevers does nearly 1,000 years later, but I notice it feels a little bit emptier. The small gathering of market stalls just beneath Solitude's windmill has expanded a little bit, with larger and more decorated stalls. ESO always delivers on decoration, clutter, and level design, and their take on Solitude is another fantastic example of that. One major difference I noticed between the two versions of the city is in regards to Castle Dower and the areas surrounding it. The castle itself is inaccessible, as is the Emperor's Tower and the Temple of the Divines. The Emperor's Tower had originally been the seat of Solitude's kings, up until the construction of the Blue Palace in the First Era, meaning that it has little use at this time, especially with the Cyrodiilic Empire being in a state of disarray at this point in the Second Era. Unlike the Emperor's Tower and Castle Dower, the temple's doors are interactive, but say that they can't be opened from this side, meaning that the temple itself might play a role in one or more quests, marking it as inaccessible for outside of those events. The castle courtyard itself serves as a hub for the various guild traders. A couple of the buildings that we've come to know as homes in Skyrim serve as guild halls instead, namely the Fighters Guild and Mages Guild, both of which are operating during the Second Era. The Bards College is another returning attraction, this time serving as a museum. In ESO, museums are used to display various trinkets and historical pieces found throughout the region during your adventures. The museum quest for the Bards College has you track down various historic instruments which have been lost, each instrument coming with its own plaque so that you can read its lore and history. Next to the Bards College is Proudspire Manor, which served as a potential player home in Skyrim. It serves as one of two homes you can get in Solitude in the Greymoor expansion, with the other home being an inn room in the Lonely Troll Inn. While there was a lot of speculation that Proudspire Manor would be the player home in Solitude for this expansion, it's nice to have that confirmation and even see it for yourself. ESO has a really robust furnishing system, in which you can craft or purchase different furnishings and place them all by hand, allowing you to really make the home look and feel the way you want it to. The furnishing layout you see here is how the house comes if you buy it already furnished, filling it with the new furnishing items added by the expansion. Proudspire's design and layout works really well for an ESO house, as none of the rooms are too big, a problem I often find with the different houses in-game, as it makes it harder to fill them properly. I'm definitely planning on getting Proudspire when the expansion releases, but it'll probably take quite a while before I can really make it look the way I want it to. The Blue Palace is yet another faithful recreation. One of the more notable changes is that the right-hand wing is fully accessible. This is what becomes the Pelagius wing centuries later, but during the Second Era is still open and serves as a small dining room and kitchen area. It's not surprising that the Blue Palace might undergo renovations over the years, as different royal families would have different needs. One thing I was really interested to see in ESO was how they would handle the scale of the city. I was to some extent expecting the city to be scaled up a fair amount in order to allow for tons of players to run through the area without always being on top of one another. Instead, I felt that for the most part, Solitude's scaling was kept in line with what we've seen in Skyrim's version, although ESO's take on the city does seem slightly larger in terms of scale. Walls seem slightly taller, that sort of thing. I think the devs were able to accomplish this by having Solitude as its own instance, separate from the rest of the overland region, and thus limiting how many players there would be in each instance of the city in order to limit crowding. In turn, you get a city that is more accurate to the ones that players know from the Elder Scrolls V. In the end, I think ESO's take on Solitude is a faithful recreation of the city, bringing back the familiar architecture, keeping the layout, and the same overall tone, while still making this their own. One of the only real architectural changes I noticed were in regards to windows, and that can be looked at as another artist's interpretation. As I said earlier, the city feels more welcoming, from warmer tones to more greenery and a certain level of elegance that was missing in Skyrim. Solitude was always my favorite city in Skyrim, so when Greymoor was announced, I was really excited to see their take on it. In the end, it feels familiar. It doesn't stray from the city that we know and love, but rather improves on it in order to make it fit into ESO. I like having Solitude as a closed city. As for me, a large part of entering Solitude is walking up that path and seeing those big metal doors standing before you, which I noticed for Greymoor were wooden instead. To me, it was important that they capture the feel of the city as it was seen in Skyrim, and they have more than succeeded on that front. While today's video was focused on Solitude, there's much more to the Greymoor expansion than the city alone. The upcoming expansion for ESO is set in Western Skyrim, including both the Hafengar and Hjalmarch holds, meaning that in addition to Solitude, we get to explore both Dragon's Bridge and Morthal. In addition to exploring Skyrim itself, a large portion of Greymoor's playable area is in Blackreach, which has been expanded and serves as a massive exploration zone. Greymoor was originally scheduled for a May 18th release on PC and a June 2nd release for Xbox One and PS4. However, due to the current situation and everyone working from home, the expansion is being pushed back slightly, with no exact date being released yet. At this time, the studio suspects it might be a week's delay, and given the situation, that's a very minor delay. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little tour of Solitude from the upcoming Elder Scrolls Online expansion. If you'd like to see more of Greymoor, make sure to follow me on twitch.tv/0periodproductions, where I stream a lot of ESO and am a member of their official stream team. I'll be streaming a ton of Greymoor when it officially releases and would love to see you there. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy my content, please check out my Patreon, which helps me in being able to do YouTube and Twitch full time. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.